Welcome to Office Hours. I'm David Meltzer with
Bucky and Leah.
We're on mute. There we go.
There we go. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
The love and the lessons of Office Hours. And it is episode, oh my goodness, I don't know, 600 and some. But anyways, we have the extraordinary Leah Notarianni and my dear friend Bucky O'Neill in the house. Thank you guys for joining me. And how was your weekend?
It was good.
It was super good.
It was good. We had some kids home, but it was good. It was good to get some work done and have some kid time.
I know it. I will tell you one thing. We live in California. You guys are neighbors of mine, and the weather was absolutely spectacular.
Oh, good.
People complain about the weather tax out here, and I always say there's two taxes as you're looking. And I have ridiculed people who move because of taxes to avoid paying taxes, of supporting their infrastructure, their government, their education, whatever it may be. But I take a different perspective. It's you should never live somewhere because of taxes, because the two most expensive taxes that you pay is a weather tax, because the quality of life, when you get to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, because the weather's not in your way, that's extremely valuable. But the bigger one is why we started Office Hours. I call it the dummy tax. And from personal experience, the dummy tax will cost you not 12% a year like California state tax, but it actually will cost you everything that you've ever owned. And maybe will own. And so I encourage people not to move locations thinking I'm saving 12% by not living in California. Take into consideration the ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, because of the weather tax. And if you're not a big weather person, then please take into consideration the dummy tax before you go ahead and uproot your entire family to save 12% and live in various locations. So that's my big takeaway from the beautiful weather we had. And
so good.
We were sitting in Dana Point having dinner, looking out on a beautiful day. And then yesterday, it was awesome. I played, and I rarely do this. I played 18 holes with my son Miles, who's 14, and it was absolutely perfect. And we had like 3 TVs going on our phones, so we were like not minding the couple holes you had to wait for, because we were watching all types of football and sports, and technology enhances everything. But anyways, I digress, because we got to get started here. Wings. I do want to thank you guys, because Julie and I enjoyed hanging out with you this weekend.
That was so fun.
It's so great.
You guys are worth way more than 12% to live by. So thank you so much for being such good friends. All right. We're blessed, though. We have our friends on here today. Betsy is waiting in the wings. She's the author of Breaking Boxes, founder and CEO of Pepine Realty. Welcome to Office Hours, the human experience, Betsy. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, my pleasure to be here.
And I hope everything's well there in Florida, speaking about saving taxes and weather. I know it's funny, because you deal with societal labels and stereotypes. I talk about an energy suck that most people are not aware of, and it's really amplified by social media. And the energy suck that's always exists is between who I am and being comfortable and confident in who I am, and also who I want people to think I am. And this is a huge energy suck that exists. And I've been studying a lot of Napoleon Hill. I'm going to be doing a lot more with Napoleon Hill. So I'm bringing myself back up to speed. And, in the early 1900s, that's pretty much what Napoleon Hill was talking about when he talked about this definite purpose, which was intention. It's really about what you write about in Breaking Boxes, getting rid of that energy suck. For you, how much of these labels and stereotypes do create an energy suck or resistance in our life?
Well, for a while, a significant amount of energy. It was very draining. I spent a whole decade in a career that wasn't for me. And it took a layoff and a divorce to recognize that and move into a space that really was truly authentic to what I'm passionate about, what I think I was born to do. And had it not been for, honestly, the divorce, I probably would still be in that industry. But even outside of just my career, being put in boxes, and I put myself in boxes too. It's not just people putting me in boxes, but feeling like this is what a good mom does, or a good daughter does, or a good whatever, that was a box. Those are boxes, and boxes based on personality types. I'm a natural introvert, and I fought that box forever. I would take, these personality profile tests, and I would take them again and again, thinking, no, I can't possibly be an introvert, because I thought being an introvert meant being a wallflower and being shy and not having many friends. And that wasn't me at all. And when I learned it was, no, it's where do you derive your energy? I absolutely get my energy from within. I'm around people I do have dogs, but those aren't my dogs. Just checked.
That's cool.
David has big dogs at his house.
Yeah.
It's David's fault.
David's dogs.
So just being more compassionate and cognizant of the boxes that I feel that I'm in, and am I in them for the right reasons? Are they the right boxes for me? I think sometimes some boxes are never meant for us and we're in them, and some boxes, they help us for a period of time. And, I'm in real estate. I see boxes all the time. Buyers, sellers pack their lives up in boxes, ship their contents off across the state. But boxes, I think, for the most part, are designed to be temporary and to be dismantled and flattened and taken to the curb. And I think sometimes, at least I tend to overstay my welcome in some boxes.
I'm curious to hear from you around metaphorical boxes, because that's a book that you've recently written. And when you think about metaphorical boxes, I think sometimes we can get ourselves wrapped up in identity and we can label them as boxes. But my question for you is, when you're moving through different changes, transformations, or transitions in your life, where do you find yourself really moving and shifting that identity from a metaphorical perspective, that it's not a physical box, but it might be the box that you've put yourself in. And then all of a sudden you're gaining a new level of awareness of, wow, I had no idea I put these parameters around, this is the way that life has to be, or my relationship has to be, or my career.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do think that I, in the past, had tied my identity to what I did. And I think that's very dangerous. I think a lot of us, especially in America, do that. I travel a lot, and I don't see that as much in some other countries. And it's so, refreshing to see that there is another way to live. And I try every day now not to attach my identity to something that can be taken away from me. And so that's who I am inside, and what my purpose is here. That for me is my identity. And my goal now, and how I define success, is so different than what I did 3 decades ago. Spent my first decade in that career that I didn't enjoy, but now it's so simple. It's not getting the next promotion. It's not a paycheck. It's not the size house I live in. It's, did my presence positively impact someone's life today? That's it. And I truly feel blessed and honored if I can end the day and I can say yes to that question.
Can you tell us about that process and the redirect for you? Because I think one of the things that people oftentimes are challenged by is the transitions, right? Mm-hmm. So it's moving from one frame of reference or one model to the next. And how do I bridge the gap between my normal practices of my previous life into creating a new life? What was that like for you? Like, can you give us an example of the process that you go through, maybe daily or weekly or monthly, as it pertains to this new outcome of like, hey, if I can have positively impact someone's life?
Yeah. So the process to get me to where I am, that was a long process. That took me years. And that process involved meditation, journaling, therapy, EMDR, bioenergetic work, just a whole host of modalities to get to where I am today. And I'm still learning. I'm still on this journey. I'll never have arrived. But now in terms of a daily practice, my identity, I don't feel like at all is threatened by those things anymore that I used to hang my hat on in terms of my identity. But now in terms of a daily practice, what works for me is I still do the meditation, the yoga, the journaling. That really helps keep me grounded. And then for me, it's something as simple as a daily tracker. So I have a little habit tracker, and every month I work on a core set of habits. And if I haven't mastered those habits at the end of the month, whichever ones I don't feel like are truly ingrained in my lifestyle and I want them to be, they move on to the next month. And sometimes it takes a year. Those habits take me a year to get ingrained. And sometimes they're much easier for me to implement and incorporate into my life. And those might roll off after a month or two. So that in terms of a daily practice is what I do. I think though, starting out, you have to be aware that you're in a box. I think for the longest time, I didn't even understand that, and understand that it's almost like an infant. When we bring an infant home, we put it in a bassinet, and that's a box, right? And it keeps that child safe. And in those first few weeks and months, that child doesn't know they're in a box. And it's kind of like me as an adult, where I didn't know I was in a box. I didn't know there was options outside the box. And then as I grew emotionally and I don't know, spiritually, I think I recognize, wait a minute, there are choices outside of the box that may serve me better. Almost like the toddler trying to climb out of the box, and then you get to be a kid and you actually can walk out of the box yourself and realize, wait a minute, no, nothing's keeping me here except for myself. And that's kind of the evolution I felt like I went through emotionally and spiritually, to recognize these boxes. And I'm also at fault. I recognize now I put other people in boxes, and I don't even sometimes know it, but I feel like quickly see, oh my gosh, I've just done that, and how that really can harm somebody. And I had no obvious ill intentions, but it was just almost like a reaction, the way I was raised and my socialization, and recognizing and having more openness and compassion for everybody.
Yeah, it's amazing how we learn about boxes. And I find, I'm blessed to meet so many people every single day. And your podcast, Empowered by Betsy Pepine, really is indicative of breaking outside of these boxes. But you're well educated. Obviously, you grew up under some sort of academic pressure. People just don't go to Duke and Wharton without some usually family expectation or an expectation of a box. And I think it's interesting that we don't see ourselves in a box when we're in a box, but we also don't see ourselves being pushed into a box. And once again, in that energy suck between I am and this is what I want people to think I am, starts to develop and to grow these walls or these boxes, and you need to dismantle them with self-empowerment. And I think everything that you're doing also illustrates, as a realtor, that you do it within the backdrop of an industry, career, or job. And it's very relevant in the world of sports and entertainment, because everybody thinks sports and entertainment themselves is the actual purpose, and it's not. It's a backdrop, the same as realty or engineering or anything else that somebody may do, but it's the empowering thought of who I am my skills, my knowledge, and my desires that allow me to break into at least a bigger box. And we'll definitely want to have you back, and some podcast swaps and other things that Bucky, Lee, and I would love to do to learn more about that expansive nature of as we break out of these boxes, are we just entering a bigger box? And are we stuck in some kind of Russian, I forget the name of those little Russian dolls where you just
the stacking dolls. Yeah.
The opposite way. Yeah. Anyway, Betsy, we appreciate everything that you're doing. We have so many different shows, so many different places. We love for you to be part of our community, our neighborhood of people that want to help each other and know people that can help each other. You fit right in. Thanks for everything. Check out her new book. It's called Breaking Boxes, Dismantling the Metaphorical Boxes That Bind Us. And it September 23rd. So just came out a week ago. So check it out. It's everywhere. And the podcast empowered by Betsy Pepine. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You too. She said, have a great day. Gigi has a rough job. It's human experience. Anyways, talk about an amazing story. GC's here, waiting in the wing. Gregory Brown is joining us. He's an author, but not like the normal authors. He's actually a real writer. And he's a business partner at Up Cup Coffee. Welcome, GC. We appreciate you joining us.
Good morning. What an interesting conversation that last one was.
That's all we want here is interesting conversations. And you have a new book coming up this fall, or winter, I guess. November's winter. In California, it's still summer, but you live in California. So we were talking about the weather tax, I think, before you came on. You're a novelist. And, there's so many and so easy, the barrier to writing books. There are no cheat codes or pamphlets. Writing a novel is serious shit. And, Chat GPT can help, write the 5 daily practices or don't do business with dicks. But when you're writing a novel and building character, you have exciting action paths, hard hitting, plain speaking, and how much of your novel, the upcoming novel Sniff, for example, are from your personal experience in your journey? Because when I'm reading about the book that's coming out in November, I'm thinking this is a guy he has real life experience of some of this hard shit. And so I was wondering how much of your past and the time that you've spent learning lessons have really contributed to you as a novelist.
A lot, most of it, all the book. I talk about putting yourself in a box. I was in a physical box, federal prison for 16 years for something I actually didn't do. But besides that, that was my way out of the box. I had never written anything. I just, there was a conglomerate of characters around me every day, from mobsters to bank robbers to drug lords to pimps to child molesters to everybody you could think of. All I had to do was sit back and just imagine these characters and the scenes that I wanted them to be in. And a lot of my life experiences, the good, the bad, the redemption, the getting up out of the ashes, and put it all together. And it turned out that was my purpose. My purpose here was to write. It was unbelievable that everything I've done in my life, it all led me to writing, which I'm absolutely in love with it. And I'll never do anything. I mean, I'll do other things. Of course, I have the coffee company and stuff too, but writing is my number one. That's the one thing I set time for. Brand new twins that I set time for every single day. I won't miss a writing section.
That's so beautiful. I think, when I've looked at my own personal journey and just journeys of my clients who have gotten into a practice of either writing a book or have written books, it's been probably one of the most therapeutic journeys that is a solo journey. I think a lot of times when we look at transforming our life or going through different healing modalities, it's typically with a therapist or with a coach or with a mentor or with different doctors or practitioners. But But sitting alone at your computer, writing your emotions and your intuition, and also, your creativity is something that's really therapeutic. I'd love to hear from your perspective. How has that process and that practice really transformed some of the things that you've experienced and brought more light and love and compassion to yourself through the process?
Well, as I was writing these stories, I was realizing that some of the things that I was writing about that I had done, particularly some of the best things that I could have done.
Right.
So writing some of these stories allowed me to really become. I set out to do two different things in federal prison. One, they told me the only thing that I could do. Now, when I left the streets, I was doing all kinds of things. I owned a diamond company, a flower company, restaurants, real estate, everything you could think of. So land in federal prison, there's nothing, absolutely nothing to do. So I go to case manager, hey, listen, what can I do? He kind of snarky smiles. You could write a book. Like I couldn't write a book. So immediately, almost within a couple of months, I said to myself, I'm going to write the best book that ever been written. Now, I don't know that I did that, but I should certainly land on the bestsellers list for sure. The other thing I set out to do was to become the best human being that I could possibly be. At the time, I didn't necessarily do the things that the government said that I was doing. In fact, not at all. I could have been better on taxes. I was a young guy making a lot of money in a big city. I lived in Miami. So I could have done things different. But like I said, I wasn't doing the things that the government said, but I was doing other things. Young guy living in Miami, making that kind of money, and you kind of lose track of the small Indiana town farm boy. I grew up on a small farm in Indiana, Midwest values, the whole deal. You lose that, or I lost that. So I wanted to get that back. So I set out to do those two things. And literally at night, there was no computers. There are no chat GTPs. There are none of that. In fact, I wrote a lot of the book because the commissary was constantly out of the notepads. I wrote a lot of books, a lot of the pages on the inside of saltine cracker boxes. So you could buy 2 boxes of the saltine cracker boxes every week. So I would trade guys here. I'll give you a couple of Snickers. I'll give you coffee. I would trade stuff that I could buy for their saltine. So I had saltine box like that. I wrote literally on saltine, not the whole thing, but out of 40 some chapters, I bet 15 of them on saltine cracker boxes. So I just set out to be different. So on each of those at night when I'd write little notes up in the right-hand corner. Hey, remember to do this tomorrow. Remember that you want to practice this. You want to create. The other guest talked about changing habits. That's what I did. I didn't have the computer. I didn't have the habit tracker. I didn't have any of that, but I'd make little notes in the upper right-hand corner of every page at night. I'd make a little note for me to remember the next day when I was rewriting to work on those certain things for the day. I'd get to the end of the day and ask myself, listen, what could I have done different today? What can I do different tomorrow? So I don't know that it's the best book ever written, and I don't know that I'm the best human being that ever lived, but I'm certainly trying in both.
That's awesome. Hey, yeah. JC, Bucky, just wanted to, I'm going to ask you a question about the motto. Okay. This idea from the worst places to the best of intentions. And I want to couple that question with this idea of purpose. You said, ultimately it ended up being my purpose writing the book. What's your thoughts, or when was the time where you got really gotten by that purpose and you felt like, okay, I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing? What was that like for you? What came up for you around that?
It was pretty quick. I realized that I was about 120 pages in on my first book. Now, the first book, I wrote a couple others in prison along with Sniff. Sniff is the first one coming out in November, but I wrote a detective series based out of South Florida. That first book, I wrote that first. That book, the publisher chose to bring out second. So that book comes out March 1st. So when I was writing the Mason Storm series, I was probably 120 pages in when I realized I'm a Gemini. So my whole past has been spent creating. And then once I get the creative part done of all these companies, I get bored with them. I want to do the next thing. It's the next car. It's the next business. It's the next house. I never stayed in a box. My box was constantly moving. So in prison, that box doesn't move, and it didn't move for 16 years. So quickly, 120 pages in, I realized this. I'm in the same bunk. I'm doing the same thing. Writing the same thing over and over every day. Different writings, of course, but I was in love with it. I wasn't bored. It was a different story every day. Something was different. I was recreating a story that I may have written yesterday. I recreated it the next day. So it's just, I was constantly creating, which is what I really love to do. So I realized that the only thing that I could do, even after I quickly realized 10 years ago while inside, that even when out, there was nothing that I could do that could compare to the writing. It was literally different every single day I sat down, which is my whole thing. I wanted different, better. And so it was quick. It was quick, Bookie. I learned fast that I was meant to do it. And then from when I realized that, it was an awakening. When I realized that, the writing, it took off. It took off. And I've read a few books along the way, and I understand the whole intention. I understand some of the other stuff you talk about. The best book that I've ever read, to me, was Dr. Dwayne Dyer's Power of Intentions.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
Phenomenal book. I stopped reading all self-help books. I only read a couple. But when I read that book, I realized that I had done that my whole life, but I just wasn't doing it correctly. So it all came together at the same time, and it got me through prison. It got me here. The best intention. It's incredible. I came home 10 months ago. I'm married for the first time in my life to, I know it's cliche, and I say it all the time, to my best friend. I love this woman. It's incredible. Of course, we met. Her brother was my cellie. He introduced me to her. We hit it off. We got married on my actual release day. The twins were born 5 weeks ago. There's no twins in our family, either one of our families. But we talked about it in an email, so it's almost like intending. We talked about it while I was still inside. Hey, how cool would it be married and have twins? And lo and behold, it's I get out here and it's this. Coming up. It's just it's been incredible. It's unbelievable. It's exactly what what it was meant to be.
It's amazing. That same book had such an impact on my life, and blessed to have Dr. Wayne Dyer as one of my mentors, and even get to mentor his daughters, Sage especially. And now we know how you go from the worst of places to the best of intentions, utilizing the power of intention. Check out the book, Sniff, and also the entrepreneurial journey, as GC is a partner in Up Cup Coffee, also launching November 1st. GC, please check back in with us. We'll see you soon. We do a lot out of SoFi. You're in LA. We'll be inviting you to multiple things that we have going on in LA. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You're amazing. Awesome. All right. Moving right along, as always, Zach is here, and he is the CEO and creative director and creative at Jim Mark. Welcome to Office Hours, Zachary Coleman.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. Well, we're going to talk about grit focused marketing. You have the Grit Focus Gym branding agency, and branding and marketing has been my game for about 35 years, and it's changed dramatically because of the size, scope, and scale of the audience and the accessibility of that audience. Obviously, with Hermosi and many others, we've seen the gym branding also in corporate branding and marketing tactics change. What are some of the biggest changes today that you've seen, because you've been in this space for a long time with great credibility?
Well, I think really what it comes down to at the end of the day is branding in general. I think so many people saw branding as a tangible asset, like, oh, just get me a logo, just get me, color schemes, which those are kind of important at a certain stage. But I think branding is leadership. I think that the leaders of the organizations have the ability now to represent their team, their customers, and represent their brand in a way that they weren't able to, 15, 20 years ago.
So I have a question for you, because it shows here that you work with a lot of sports in sports and you're working in branding and marketing. Now, one of the things that I would love to hear from you is you talk a lot about finding their why and how that's related to their brand. I'm curious for you is how do you brush up against that line of finding their why, but also connecting it to the deep pain that has really driven them to the level of success that they had, and how you're taking that and bringing that into brand in a really careful, pragmatic, and practical way that also ties in a level of emotion and connection to what it is that they want to create in the world.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think we all have a purpose. That purpose evolves drastically as we continue to grow, as we continue to get older as people, as we continue to learn. And I think especially if you look at athletes in particular, even business owners, we go through these stages of life. And I think that we somewhat lose our values. We tend to grow. We hear all these people around us telling us to do certain things. And so I really look at it, and it kind of happened to me personally. Like I started to grow this business. I started to lose my why because I started to think, oh, this is how I need to grow. This is what I need to do. And I started to lose my values in that process. And so I really help individuals kind of rediscover their values. Let's look at the things in their personal life that actually bring them joy and happiness, that can actually help them tailor towards their continued brand values as they continue to evolve, hire people, get new customers, find their audience, find their differentiating factor. And I think that those values play a huge role in all of our lives. And it's just really being able to find those and embrace those values that can really help get to the root core of a person's why.
So good. I think about, this idea of different, this idea of different isn't always better, but better is always different. I'm curious for you from a philosophical standpoint, or even from a process or execution standpoint, what is the difference for you in your business when it comes to the way that you approach branding and the way that you approach marketing this way?
Yeah, totally. At the end of the day, I would say it's all about, differentiating yourself to what you feel is comfortable. I think there's a common thing in today's environment where they're like, riches are in the niches, right? You need to niche down. You need to find this one service. And I think I'm not going to say I think that's bull wonky. I think that there's the ability to grow and evolve and have different services or have different capabilities depending on what you are. If you're a gym owner, if you're an athlete, depending on what you're doing within the business. I think it really just depends on the business. But I think you need to kind of go through and you need to figure out those different services and those different capabilities to be able to find out which one really meshes with you the most, which one are you the best at, which one brings you joy, which one helps you serve your audience the best. And what really separates us the most is I kind of go through a stage of personal branding to what we call, the me to the we to the us. And so I kind of really focus on, a person really figuring out who they are first. Like, let's really figure out who you are first as a person, and figure out how that can really tailor into bringing in the right people. I'm a very big component on utilizing branding as a way to develop you as a person. So all of our processes, all of the stuff that we do with a leadership team and or the actual owner itself comes down to, hey, you're the leader of this company. So I want you to lead by example. You're going to be learning these things as we go along the process. You need to, because if you don't, then down the road, when you have to go higher, you have to go evolve to the next stage, and you need to find a different separator or a different way to evolve your company. You can understand how to do it enough that you can hire and or bring in the right people or customers to do so. And so I'm a very big component of teaching and learning and helping the individuals understand the process of branding and utilizing that in a way that can help them evolve as people.
Yeah, just really quickly, Dave. I think that's one of the most powerful things that you said in this whole interview is this idea of, bringing people through a branding process so that it evolves them personally. I think, one of the things that we talk about often is this hierarchy of value when it comes to business and the difference between a commodity, a service, an experience, and a transformation. And what I see some of the best businesses doing is that they're taking their normal position, for you would be like a service provider, and transforming it into an experience or transformation. It's really impacting people's lives, so that's more than just branding. It's who you're becoming. It's like filling out these questionnaires and going through this process and having this thing that you're going through is really not just about the brand, but it's about identifying who you are, what you stand for, what it is that you're creating in the world. I think it's incredibly powerful. I just want to point it out because I think it's a really strong position in a environment where there's so many people who are positioned as brand experts, right?
Yeah, and if you really look down to just the stages of growth for any individual or any person, vision comes into huge play. And I think one of the problems that we all get when we get burnout, when we get in that stage where we're all messed up, it's because we're at a point where we've either lost our vision or we haven't evolved our vision to what we want. And there's a point when that vision now has to cycle down to the people that you work with, the customers that you bring on. And if you're burnt out, you're not going to be able to, grow the brand that you want and be grit focused, right? Or persevere to that point where you're able to make it to that next stage. And it's a very hard thing to do. And you guys have probably talked about this a lot. Growing a business is hard. It's not easy. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. And you have to learn to start getting to a point where you're not putting yourself in a situation where you're not taking time for yourself, not taking time for other people. And so, yeah, I think that vision comes into a huge play too when it comes to helping people make it to that next stage.
It is, and it's difficult to be creative.com, but it is at your essence, your skills, knowledge, and your desire aligned with where you want to be or better. And in the marketing space, it's always this word authenticity. It's not overused. It's just utilized in a multiple variety of ways. And I think understanding what Bucky's talking about, understanding your essence, which incorporates so much of your story, your vibration, a variety of different variables that can be utilized in order to resonate with those that statistically best will resonate with you. And that's what marketing's about, beyond the ability to articulate value to those people that resonate with you, not just positively, but negatively as well. And because of the huge platform that we have in social media, we have to learn how to deal with and align with the different people that resonate with us and those that don't. And I think having someone like Zachary Coleman that gets it is very helpful, especially when he's specifically in the gym branding side of stuff. There's so much opportunity for people. Definitely have you back, my friend Zach. Thanks for everything you do. Great lessons today. We appreciate you. Another professor here on Office Hours. We'll see you soon. I like his cool red microphone too. I don't get to see. I don't have a lot of mics. That one's a cool. All right. Well, I know we have a lot of activities today, all three of us. So might as well get right to the takeaways of the day. We'll ladies first here on Office Hours.
I think it was a good flow of, talking about metaphorical boxes and then breaking free from the physical boxes of life, and then also going into connecting to your why. And the thing that really stood out for me is this idea of really being able to recalibrate your life in a way that allows you to see things in a way that, what if there was no box? Because sometimes we break through this box to get to the next one. What if there was no box? What if there was a way for you to really view your life with the boxes all flattened around you, that you could really step into the version of yourself or the vision of yourself that you really wanted, and you can see from your peripherals and also right in front of you the vision that you want without having these layers. Really powerful insight to be able to just observe from just our guests and being able to see life from a different lens. So that was a really powerful thing for me to see today.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I think the thing that comes up for me is the importance of building your life around something that pulls you into a direction of evolution, right? All three examples talked about this idea of, whether it's the multiple books or the business of like, what am I doing from a work perspective, from a career perspective, that's pulling me into a greater version, a greater purpose of myself, a greater vision of myself. It's one of the things that we talk about so often. I think there's so many people that are living lives that are disconnected from who they are, disassociated from who they are. And part of our ascension into our highest evolution of self-actualization really comes from this compounded time, the compounded consistency. And it's one thing to have a practice, right? Like I wake up in the morning and I go for a walk, or I do a meditation, or I read a journal, or I listen to a podcast. And it's another thing to dedicate the majority of your life to that practice, whether that's a career or a business or a relationship, or a way of thinking or spirituality. And I think as time turns, there's going to be more and more people who are looking for the career opportunity, the relationship opportunity, the spirituality opportunity to actually commit their life in a direction that pulls the best out of them. So it was reiterated today just to kind of see the importance of that, and how in doing so, there's insights and lessons and wisdoms that come from that path that aren't available otherwise.
Brilliant, both of you. And it's interesting because I've always said that thoughts about our purpose are our purpose, but I've never been able to articulate effectively what that means. You know how like something means something to you, but you can't really, when people are like, what do you mean by that? The thoughts about your purpose are your purpose. And I think my takeaway is a better way to articulate that, because as I look at the definite purpose, being relative to intention, and that statement, from worst of places to the best of intentions, whether or not there needs to be a qualifier of best or worse or good or bad, it's personal to most because of the alignment of their behavior with where they want to be or better. What's so interesting is I think where I can help people explain the thoughts about your purpose are your purpose is what are the underlying intentions of what you're doing, saying, thinking, feeling, and believing in a purposeful way. And so thinking about our purpose is in essence our purpose, because it will regulate what we're doing, saying, thinking, feeling, and believing. And so a lot of people are in search of something they already have. And if we focus or direct them towards having an intentionality or a definite purpose for the day, then I think it's easier to understand how the meaning of what we give the activities of the day or the thoughts about our purpose become our purpose. And I think I'll have to go back and read Wayne Dyer just to get an idea under that perception of what's going on. I will tell you that I'm very definite in the purpose of hanging out with Bucky and Leah, Mariani, Bucky O'Neill, always elevating my understanding and awareness to how I can live my life in a more passionate, purposeful, and profitable way. If you want to do the same thing, I highly suggest you reach out to them. They're dear friends of mine, and they're changing the world for the better. I appreciate both of you taking the time. I know it's very valuable. It certainly is very valuable to me. It keeps us in a place of communication every week at the very least. So thank you.
Love you, brother. Appreciate you.
You guys are awesome. All right, friends, it's office hours. The human experience with Bucky O'Neill and Leah Notarianni. She is amazing, obviously. That's why Bucky married her. Anyways, he's my man. We're going to be all over the place as usual, 200 cities, LA, New York, LA, and Dubai. I guess crazy as usual. Anyway, just email me if you want to hang out. We're going to be doing masterminds in LA. New York is incredible. Come to our VIP dinner. Gary Vaynerchuk just emailed, said he's tried to stop by. Gail King, Victor Cruz. I'm keynoting the Ad Week. We got Napoleon Hill. There's so much cool shit. Just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. If you're in any of those cities, I'll give you the list of shit we got going on. Text me if you want to keep up with me, 949-298-2905. That's how I use what I'm doing. Anyway, be more interested than interesting. be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll see you later. Thank you.
Welcome to Office Hours. I'm David Meltzer with Bucky and Leah.